From Djokovic's French Open chances to the campaign against on-court coaching, there is still a lot to be discussed. The first Grand Slam of 2019 has come to an end. Naomi Osaka followed up on her US Open triumph to claim the women's title. An achievement that has elevated her to becoming the first Asian player to reach #1 in the world. Meanwhile, Novak Djokovic produced a masterful display against Rafael Nadal to empathize his dominance on the men's tour. Now that the tournament has reached its conclusion, here are 10 topics that require further discussion. 1. Novak Djokovic will win Roland Garros, completing his second No Slam. Embed from Getty Images predicting the winner of an event over 4 months away is a risky business, especially when that event is played on clay and you're not picking Rafael Nadal. And hot takes such as this are popular to make after one dominating performance. But the way in which Djokovic destroyed Nadal in Sunday's final is the kind of victory that has a lingering effect. It's reminiscent of Nadal's crushing win over Roger Federer at 2008's Roland Garros, after which Rafa finally dethroned the King of Brass a few weeks later. Novak's victory over Nadal last year at Wimbledon is what propelled him back to the top of the sport, and re-established Djokovic's mental edge over Nadal. Beating Nadal on clay in best-of-5 remains the sport's biggest challenge. But I see Novak winning a few clay titles in the best-of-3 format heading into the French Open, which will instill the necessary confidence come Paris. As we saw on Sunday, the patterns in this matchup played in Djokovic's favor. His deep returns, superior backhand, and aggressive positioning on the baseline all take time away from Nadal. The Teraboute will neutralize some of that, but not enough to derail Novak's quest to again hold all 4 majors. 2. The resolve of Petra Kvitova was only trumped by that of Naomi Osaka. Embed from Getty Images. What the men's final lacked in drama, the women's certainly made up for. Kvitova's fight back to save 3 championship points and level the match at 1-all was awesome. Yet the way the 21-year-old Osaka still found a way to compose herself and close out the match was even more impressive. She seemingly matured as a competitor within the match itself. And it was poetic justice for Osaka to get to enjoy her triumph, after she was robbed of doing so in New York. Kudos to both of these great champions, and future Hall of Famers, for their perseverance. 3. Do the right thing and rename Margaret Court Arena. Embed from Getty Images. Having the Australian Open's #2 court named after a proud homophobe continues to be incredibly troubling. While delivering the keynote address in last week's Australian Open Inspirational Series, Anna Wintour used the platform to address this topic. It is inconsistent for the sport for Margaret Court's name to be on a stadium that does so much to bring all people together across their differences, said Wintour. I wish players would publicly refuse to be scheduled on Margaret Court Arena, but sadly that hasn't materialized. Instead, a leader from the fashion world was the best advocate for change at this tennis event. The excuse Tennis Australia has provided, that this decision isn't fully under their authority, is just that, an excuse. We need more officials, more players, and more members of the media to demand this change. 4. The new heat stress scale is an upgrade, but the standard for closing the roof is still way too high. This year the Australian Open replaced the ever-confusing wet bulb standard with the AU heat stress scale. It measures a variety of weather-related factors, and requires the roof be closed if the scale reaches a 5.0. This is much easier to understand than the old rule, but 5.0 is too high of a standard. During the women's semifinals, it was obviously extremely uncomfortable for everyone on Rod Laver Arena due to the heat. The ball kids weren't even able to rest their hands on the court, but the roof remained open for most of the first set since the scale was still below 5.0. What is it going to take for officials to wake up and realize they're endangering the health of players, officials, and fans? It's time for common sense to prevail here before someone suffers from some serious medical issues. 5. The electronic net machine doesn't work. If better technology is not available, bring back the judge that sits at the net. Embed from Getty Images. There were many instances during this fortnight of Let's being called when the serve clearly didn't touch the net, but the worst example was during the women's semi-finals. As Danielle Collins served to Petra Kvitova, the electronic net machine beeped before she even struck her serve. She subsequently missed the serve and was not awarded a first serve, as chair umpire Carlos Ramos incorrectly asserted the beep came after her serve. For years now, players have complained about phantom lets, where the ball clearly doesn't hit the net, but the machine beeps anyway. We should not only eliminate that machine, but we should allow players to challenge let calls. The technology to do so exists, so why not utilize it? Better to wait a few extra moments to get the call right. 6. Let's introduce the first to 10 final set tiebreak at all events. Embed from Getty Images. This is one of many innovations where Tennis Australia is ahead of the other Grand Slam governing bodies. The first to 10 tiebreak was utilized at 6-6 in the final sets at this tournament, and created some great drama. It also served as a reasonable ending to prolonged matches. This is an enhancement over the US Open's first to 7 final set tiebreak, which has been used for a long time now. Wimbledon has announced they'll begin using a best to 7 tiebreak as 12-12 in the final set, but that's still allowing for a full extra set of play, when a more prompt conclusion would be best. And as usual, Roland Garros lags behind the other 3 majors, as they continue to let final sets play out without a tiebreak. The scoring system in tennis is hard enough for a casual fan to follow. Having 4 different ways to decide matches at 4 different majors is unnecessary. Let's make the scoring system uniform at all events, including non-majors, and use a first to 10 final set tiebreak everywhere. 7. If this was Andy Murray's last singles match at a major, what a fitting way to conclude his career. Embed from Getty Images. His over 4-hour match with Roberto Bautista Agut, where he somehow summoned the will to come back from 2 sets down despite the tremendous pain he was suffering from, was a remarkable feat despite the loss. Murray was never the most naturally gifted athlete on tour, but worked extremely hard and got everything he could out of his talent and his body. Hopefully Murray finds a way to relieve the pain in his hip, even if it doesn't yield a return to professional tennis. More important is his quality of life outside of tennis. 8. Good on the fans for booing Maria Sharapova's ridiculous 7-minute bathroom break. Embed from Getty Images. During her 4th-round match against Ashley Barty, Sharapova played a terrible second set, losing it 6-1. Then, in a lack of sportsmanship, she spent a full 7 minutes off court, in a clear attempt to disrupt her opponent's momentum. The Aussie crowd rained boos down upon Sharapova as she walked back onto court, as the sporting crowd is not fond of such dirty tactics. A rule limiting the amount of time a player is allowed to leave the court is long overdue. 9. Starting matches after midnight is unfair to players, tournament employees, and fans alike. Embed from Getty Images. Garbiñe Muguruza's near 3-hour battle with Johanna Konta in the second round was one of the tournament's best matches. Unfortunately, almost no fans witnessed it live, and it deserved a much better atmosphere. The MCA schedule ran extremely late, as 2 men's matches went 5 sets. I'll save the men's matches are too damn long argument for another time. So these 2 former top 10 players didn't start their match until after midnight, and didn't finish until after 3 a.m. It's completely unfair for the winning player to be on court until such an ungodly hour, having to face an opponent in the next round that completed their match at a reasonable time. If we're not going to speed up play in the men's tournament, sorry, can't help myself, at least move this match to a different court at an earlier time, or hold the match over until the next day. 10. One last plea to keep sacred what makes the sport so special. Please don't allow mid-match coaching. Embed from Getty Images. There's talk that Tennis Australia is considering allowing coaching from the stands during matches at next year's Australian Open. Please, Tennis Australia, think better of this. One of the things I love most about this sport is how players are forced to problem-solve on the court, and on their own. It's revealing of character, just as it also builds character. Limit the mid-match coaching to team events where it belongs. The world number one talks about the power of visualization, overtaking his idol Sampras and chasing after the elusive calendar Grand Slam. Novak Djokovic with the 2019 Australian Open trophy. Photo by Roberto Dell'Olivo. Use your arrow keys to browse. Aside from a humorous exchange with Yuba tennis founder Ubaldo Scanagata, Novak Djokovic spoke with reporters about a variety of topics ranging from his return from injury to the prospect of achieving a calendar slam in 2019. On Sunday, the world number one dropped only 8 games against Rafael Nadal to win the Australian Open for a record 7th time. The triumph has made him the first man in history to win 3 consecutive major titles, 3 times in a row on 3 different occasions. Following his latest milestones, here are 5 things we learned from the world number one. Belief is the key to his success. Embed from Getty Images. 12 months ago, many were wondering if Djokovic would be able to return back to his best. Following a 6-month hiatus in 2017 due to an elbow injury, he made a roller coaster return at the start of last year. However, it was on the grass where he rediscovered his top form and returned back to the top of men's tennis. Since July, he has won 3 Grand Slam and 2 Masters 1000 titles. During that period, only Alexander Zverev, Stefanos Tsitsipas, Karen Khachanov and Roberto Bautista Agut have defeated him. I don't want to sound arrogant, but I always believe in myself. I think that's probably the biggest secret of my success, or probably any other athlete, is self-belief. Always digging deep in the moments when you're facing adversity, digging those moments of complimenting yourself, visualizing yourself as a winner, trying to be in a positive state of mind, Djokovic explained. The 31-year-old credits his comeback to visualization, a mental process of what you want to happen or feel in reality. Djokovic is known for his spiritual beliefs, which was highlighted during his previous collaboration with Pepe Imez, who he maintains a close friendship with. I'm a true believer in visualization. I do that a lot. I think that I had to do that more than ever in my life 12 months ago after the surgery because I wasn't playing well, I wasn't feeling good on the court, I was questioning everything, I was doubting whether I will be able to play everyone at this level because I didn't know to what extent the operation of my elbow would affect my game, he said. It was a huge learning curve for me, just the whole process was very special. I embraced the journey. I am very grateful to go through it. I would never change anything if I could turn back the time because things are just the way they should be. Use your arrow keys to browse. The newly crowned Australian Open champion gave a press conference that journalist Ubaldo Scanagata will never forget. Novak Djokovic. Photo by Priceline Cayo. Copyright It's 4th Vision. After becoming the first man in history to win a 7th Australian Open title, Novak Djokovic had reporters in hysterics during his post-match press conference. Yuba tennis founder Ubaldo Scanagata asked the world number one if he was surprised that Rafael Nadal was unable to trouble him on his serve throughout the first set. However, 5 words into Scanagata's question, Djokovic interrupted by saying, "Not too bad," in an Italian accent, poking fun at his strong Italian accent, which prompted an eruption of laughter within the media room, including the director of Yuba Tennis himself. Ed Jokernal sent the press into hysterics, rolling on the floor laughing. Shortly after Nadal's first-round win over James Duckworth, he was caught having a snooze during the press conference of the world number 2, prompting a hilarious exchange between the two. "I had slept only 3 hours the night before and it had already been a very stressful day," Ubaldo said after the curious incident. "I dozed off a little. I was sitting next to Benito Barbadillo, Nadal's agent, someone Rafa looks at very frequently during press conferences." Scanagata is one of the most well-known journalists in the world of tennis. In a career that has spanned over decades, he has reportedly lived from over 150 Grand Slams, 7 Olympic Games, 4 America's Cup and the Swimming World Championships. It is certainly never dull when the Italian journalist is present at tournaments. Kvitova was a loser on the court, but remains a winner off. Petra Kvitova, photo by Priceline Kayo, copyright at Sport Vision. It had been just minutes after the conclusion of the Australian Open final that we were reminded of the brutal fall and rapid revival of the formidable Petra Kvitova. Taking on the fearless Naomi Osaka in her first major final since the 2014 Wimbledon Championships, the Czech was edged out in a 3-set thriller. Afterwards, a teary Kvitova said to her team during the trophy presentation, "Thanks for sticking with me, even if we didn't know if I would be able to hold a racket again." The heartfelt words were in reference to an incident during December 2016 that almost ended her career for good. Staying in her apartment, she was involved in a tussle with an intruder who posed as a maintenance man. Armed with a knife, the attacker ended up slashing Kvitova's left hand, damaging the nerves and tendons in it, as well as the mental implications. 4 hours of surgery and 5 months of rehabilitation followed. Not a bad outcome for Kvitova, who was originally warned that she may never be able to play again due to the damage caused. "I wanted to win and have the trophy, but I think I already won 2 years ago," Kvitova said during her press conference. "So for me, it's amazing. I think I still don't really realize that I played the Australian Open final. I've been through many, many things, not really great ones. I didn't know if I was going to hold the racket again. I'm holding it, so that's good." Petra Kvitova's hand before and after operation. Astonished face pic.twitter.com/nstjvix, My Tennis Daily Picks, @BestTennisPicks, August 28, 2017. Against the odds, the 28-year-old returned to action with a win over Julia Bozarup in the first round of the 2017 French Open. Watching in the crowd was her team wearing t-shirts with the words, "Courage, Belief, POJD, Come On," in Czech. Kvitova has stayed true to those words throughout her comeback. A period she describes as her second career. In 2018 she became the only player on the WTA Tour to claim 5 singles titles. During that season, she also produced 7 wins over top 10 players, something she last achieved in 2013. As for the first month of 2019, Kvitova won her 26th career title in Sydney and finished runner-up in Melbourne. "You know how the women's tennis is. Everybody can just beat anyone, which it's good and it's bad on the other side," she explains. "That's the tennis. It's beautiful sport. I'm happy to be playing it. Hopefully the downs will be less than the ups. I think I have already done much better than the last year. It's just the first month of the year, so it's great." One of the most striking aspects of Kvitova is her popularity in the sport among both players and journalists. At the time of her attack, there was an outpouring of well wishes for her. Even those who hadn't played her in the past was in admiration of her. As the case was for Osaka, who faced Kvitova for the first time in Melbourne. "I've always wanted to play you. You have been through so much and honestly, I would have not wanted this to be our first matchup," the new Australian Open champion said in a tribute to Kvitova. "You're really amazing and I'm honored to have played you in a Grand Slam." Embed from Getty Images. According to Osaka, Kvitova's tennis has earned her respect on the tour, dismissing the idea that her popularity may only be due to sympathy. "Everyone that sort of listens or watches the tennis world, you always hear about how when she is on, she's pretty much unbeatable. The scorelines seem to prove that point too," the new world #1 said of Kvitova. After being within a whisker on the Australian Open trophy, Kvitova's hunger for success in the majors has intensified. A warning for her other rivals on the tour. She has now played in 42 Grand Slam main draws, making her debut back at the 2008 French Open. "I want to be back stronger, that's for sure. I was pretty close, but pretty far to the title," she said. "So I need one more step to hold it. I think in a couple weeks I am going to be back and play and work, and whatever it takes, I am going to do that. Inevitably, disappointment will be the dominant factor for Kvitova over the coming days. What if she converted one of her 5 break points in the first set? What if she didn't drop serve early on in the decider? Nevertheless, looking at the wider picture, Kvitova's resurgence over the past 18 months is an inspiration for many others to follow. This is why Petra Kvitova is a loser in Melbourne, but a winner has many other ways. Thank you to my team for being with me every step of the way. It hurts right now, but we have been through much tougher things together. And look at this beautiful trophy heart.